Batman: Mask of the Phantasm was a feature-length movie based inside the world of the hit TV show Batman the Animated Series, which was spearheaded by Eric Radomski and Bruce Timm in the early 90s. Radomski and Timm are both on board as directors for this film. Originally intended as a straight-to-video release, it was Warner execs who decided to push for a big screen release, forcing the filmmakers to convert the film into a widescreen aspect ratio in a very limited amount of time. The story for the film was mostly inspired by elements from the two comic book stories, Batman Year One and Batman Year Two, as it focuses on Batman's origins as well as introducing a villain whose design is strikingly similar to that of the Reaper. While Mask of the Phantasm was a critical success, the film failed to make much of an impact at the box office, though it has garnered something of a cult following since its release. From here on out, it was decided that any future animated Batman movies would be better served as straight-to-video releases.
Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?
A couple of years later, in 1995, it was time for Batman to get a live-action makeover in the shape of Val Kilmer as Bruce Wayne Batman in Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever. After it was decided that Burton's previous effort was just too dark to market to family audiences, Warner Brothers felt it was time to change direction and add a little more colour. And comic book villains come no more colourful than the Riddler, the prince of puzzlers who likes to dress in a bright green jumpsuit. Eventually, after some discussion with Robin Williams, this role went to Jim Carrey, who was riding high on the monumental box office successes of The Mask, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and Dumb and Dumber. Filling out the rest of the cast was Oscar-winning character actor Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, Chris O'Donnell as Robin, and Nicole Kidman as Dr. Chase Meridian. Returning from the previous big screen outings in the roles of Alfred and Commissioner Gordon were actors Michael Gough and Pat Hingle. These two actors are the only elements that connect the film to Burton's movies, allowing audiences to either accept the film as a sequel or as the start of a new and separate franchise. Audiences seem to embrace the new direction that Schumacher took the Batman characters into, heading out in their droves to see the film, making it the #1 box office smash of 1995. Even so, the production was a tumultuous affair, with Carey later confessing to the fact that he did not get on with Tommy Lee Jones, and director Schumacher regretting his decision to cast Kilmer in the role of Batman, with the two of them constantly falling out on set. Despite this, Batman creator Bob Kane would go on to say that Kilmer had given the best performance so far out of any actor to play the Dark Knight. With Warner Brothers' faith in the franchise restored, the studio pressed ahead with the sequel, which was released in theatres just 2 years later in 1997. Director Schumacher was back on board, only this time he brought with him George Clooney to replace Val Kilmer as Batman. The decision for this casting came to Schumacher when he saw Clooney on the cover of an in-flight magazine and decided to draw the cowl over the top of his face. While this may seem like an odd way to cast the film's hero, the decision to cast Arnold Schwarzenegger as the main villain, Mr. Freeze, came as an even greater surprise to fans of the character. Bruce Timm had reinvented the villainous character in Batman the Animated Series earlier in the 90s, making him more of a tortured soul. So the question on everybody's lips was, how would a movie star that was hardly known for playing characters with such depth be able to tackle such a role? But it soon became apparent to audiences that Schwarzenegger's take on the character would bear little resemblance to the Bruce Timm iteration, instead assaulting the screen with a never-ending parade of bad puns whilst making his way around a bunch of neon dress sets with a constant stream of gadgets and gizmos that could later be sold to children. Schumacher has often stated that he felt an immense amount of pressure from the studio to make the film more toyetic, and has since apologised to fans for not making the movie he felt they deserved. Batman and Robin would be the last live-action Batman movie to be seen by Batman creator Bob Kane, before his death in 1998. The critical reception for the film was so severe that it quashed Warner Brothers' plans for Batman Triumphant, which would have been the 5th film in the franchise and would have featured Scarecrow as the main villain. Unsure of how to get the franchise back on track, it took 8 years to get another Batman film into cinemas, when the studio finally decided to put their faith into the talents of filmmaker Christopher Nolan. Nolan was most famous for his work on the critically lauded indie film Memento, but he also proved he could work with huge stars like Al Pacino and Robin Williams, both Oscar winners, on the remake of the Norwegian thriller Insomnia.
What do you fear?
Nolan's approach to Batman was to make the character as real as possible, finding not just cosmetic, but practical reasons for why Batman would have bat ears and a cape as part of his costume. Much of Batman's gadgetry in the film is based on actual military technology. This realism extended to the world that Batman lived in as well, with Nolan placing more emphasis on physical special effects work rather than computer-generated effects. This is evident in many scenes that use massive, full-scale sets, such as the Batcave, or in scenes that were filmed on location in the city of Chicago. In a post-9/11 world, the film explored the theme of fear, using the eco-terrorist Ra's al Ghul as its main antagonist. Liam Neeson plays Raz, kickstarting his later career trend as the older action star 3 years prior to the release of Taken. Batman Begins was a tremendous success, both financially and critically, paving the way for not only a sequel but also a change in direction for another long-running icon of the cinema, James Bond, who would be taken back to the beginning of his career in the film Casino Royale in 2006. 2008 saw the release of the second film in Nolan's trilogy, The Dark Knight, which would become the first comic book movie to break the $1 billion mark at the box office, making it one of the most successful movies of all time. That success was in no small part thanks to the Academy Award-winning performance by Heath Ledger as the Joker, who unfortunately did not get to see the film before his untimely death, just 6 months before its release. With this film, Nolan brought the same realism he'd brought to the previous instalment, but on a much grander scale, shooting most of the film's big action set pieces on IMAX MSM 8602 cameras. This was the first time that these cameras had been used to shoot a feature film.
From a technical standpoint, IMAX is the absolute highest resolution you can achieve.
At the time The Dark Knight was being shot, there was only 4 of these cameras in existence. By the time Nolan had finished filming, there was only 3, as one of the cameras was destroyed when it was hit by a truck on set. Another rather unique aspect of the way in which the film was shot, as was the case with Batman Begins, is that every single shot was directed by Nolan, as he refused to hire a second unit on production. This meticulous handling of the production is one of the things that separates Nolan from many of his contemporaries. It's also one of the reasons why there was a 4-year wait between The Dark Knight and the final film in the trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises. After Batman Begins dealt with the theme of fear and The Dark Knight with the theme of chaos, the trilogy's closer looked at the theme of pain. Batman is certainly put through the ringer by the masked terrorist Bane, who poses not only an intellectual threat to the Dark Knight, but also a physical one.
When Gotham is ashes, you have my permission to die.
To prepare for the role, actor Tom Hardy studied numerous fighting styles, as well as gaining over 30 pounds in weight. The actor also admitted to being such a huge fan of the Batman character as a boy that he found it extremely hard to film some of the fight scenes, which required him to beat up his childhood hero.
Peace has cost you your strength. Victory has defeated you.
Despite being a monumental success at the box office, as well as garnering an extremely good critical reception, the film did not receive a single Academy Award nomination, one of only 2 Batman films since Tim Burton's original not to do so, the other being Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin. With Nolan's Batman saga finally finished, Batman fans are now looking to the future, in which the character will once again be seen in multiplexes. This time he will be joined by other heroes from the pages of the DC comic books, most notably Superman in next year's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Taking on the role this time is actor Ben Affleck. It's probably safe to say that, good or bad, the film will most likely be a box office success that will pave the way for many more films to come. There has never been a better time for comic book fans to go to the movies. But as Batman fans everywhere look forward to the many different interpretations of the character that are sure to hit cinemas over the intervening years, it will be impossible to forget the incredible cinematic legacy that has been left behind by the many wonderful filmmakers that have already brought this icon to the big screen.